I want you to try a little thought experiment for a second.
Okay.
Just take a look around at the people currently in your life. Picture your friends or your family members, your colleagues.
Right. The people you see every day.
Yeah, exactly. Like the person you text first when something good happens. Or maybe just the person sitting across from you at the breakfast table right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to consider a pretty heavy proposition. What if the idea of emotional independence is just, well, a complete myth?
Oh, wow. That is heavy.
Right. What if free will, when it comes to your own happiness, doesn't actually exist? And what if those specific individuals you're picturing right now are the sole absolute dictators of your life's joy and misery?
I mean, that completely disrupts the whole Western ideal of the self-made individual, doesn't it?
It really does.
We love to believe we are the, stoic captains of our own ships. Completely self-determined, capable of finding inner peace regardless of the storm outside.
Yeah, the whole my mindset is everything culture.
Exactly. But to look at the people around us and realize our emotional baseline is fundamentally at their mercy, it forces a total reevaluation of literally every interaction you have.
And that illusion of control is exactly what we are dismantling today. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are exploring this absolutely fascinating 2023 essay by an author named Xu Feng. And it basically argues that our emotional weather is entirely dictated by whoever happens to be walking next to us.
Right.
The piece is actually titled, "The People Who Walk With You Create the Joys and Sorrows of Your Life." And our mission today is to map out this chronological journey of human connection as laid out in the text.
It covers the whole lifespan, right?
Yes, from the environments we are completely forced into as kids to the really high-stakes gambles of the choices we make later on.
And I think the lens through which this is written is really crucial to keep in mind. The author is observing the human condition from the vantage point of old age.
Which changes everything.
It does. This is a retrospective look backward. It strips away all the noise and, the blind ambition of youth just to observe how companions shaped absolutely everything.
It gives the observations this raw, unfiltered authority.
Yeah, the author isn't just theorizing about social dynamics in a lab. They're reporting on the lived reality of a complete human timeline.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning. Because before we get to make any choices about who we let into our lives, we're assigned our first companions.
The involuntary foundation.
Exactly. We are talking at childhood, and
Yeah.
specifically our parents. And I have to say, the essay does not pull any punches here.
Not at all.
It presents parents as the literal, physical embodiments of our early joy and sorrow.
What's fascinating here is that there is zero romanticizing of the family unit in this perspective. None.
Yeah, it's very pragmatic.
Loving, reasonable parents are described as a pure blessing. Essentially, the ultimate good fortune you can be handed at the starting line of life.
Right. But then there's the other side of the coin.
Right. The author immediately contrasts this with a highly specific, toxic reality. They point out the sheer tragedy of parents who view their children merely as tools to, quote, bring honor to ancestors.
Yeah, that pressure.
Or even worse, parents who use their kids as literal punching bags to vent their frustrations from the outside world.
The mechanism of how that breaks a person is what really caught my attention, because the text isn't just saying bad parents make you sad.
No, it goes way deeper than that.
It portrays these early figures as the actual creators of your sunny or cloudy days. When you think about the psychology of a child, their home environment is their entire universe.
It's all they know.
Right. If your parents are constantly venting their outside stress onto you, your nervous system never learns what a baseline of safety feels like.
Yes, your cortisol levels are permanently spiked.
Because the people meant to protect you are the threat.
And the biological reality perfectly mirrors the author's philosophical point here. A child's brain is highly neuroclastic, right?
It's absorbing everything.
Exactly. It is actively wiring itself based
Right.
on the emotional climate of the home. So if your companions at that age are hostile, they aren't just giving you a bad day.
They're changing your hardware.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are literally calibrating your brain's threat detection system for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And this profound lack of agency extends right into adolescence, too.
Where the primary authority figures shift from parents to teachers,
Right.
the imagery used to describe teachers is intense. The author argues that wise, loving teachers pave a path of light and hope. But a narrow-minded, hostile teacher literally fills a young person's sky with dark clouds, actively blocking out the sun.
Consider how a teacher's evaluation works at that critical stage of development. Their every word, their tone.
Their patience or lack of it.
Exactly. It shapes an adolescent's entire emerging worldview and their self-worth.
The dark clouds isn't just a metaphor for a kid being upset about a bad grade.
It's much heavier than that. It describes a young person internalizing their belief that they are fundamentally inadequate, all because an assigned authority figure treated them with hostility.
Wait, hold on. I have to push back on this framework for a second because it feels dangerously close to a massive cop-out.
How do you mean?
Well, if my life is a total mess at 35, is Swifting giving me a philosophical permission slip to just, like, blame my third-grade math teacher or my dad's bad days at work?
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Because where does personal accountability fit into this if we're just passive receivers of other people's emotional weather? I mean, are we just doomed to live in a dark basement because we were assigned bad architects early on?
That's a fair question, but no. The author isn't offering a permission slip to avoid accountability later in life.
Okay.
They're demanding that we acknowledge the unequal starting lines of the human experience. Refusing to admit how deeply early involuntary companions damage a person doesn't make that person more accountable.
It just makes their struggle invisible.
Exactly. The author is being starkly realistic. During those formative years, your emotional climate is completely dependent on authority figures. You are highly vulnerable.
Right.
But the essay clearly recognizes that this involuntary phase ends.
Right. The excuse of the involuntary environment eventually vanishes. We outgrow our childhood bedrooms, we leave the classroom, and suddenly we become the authors of our own emotional destruction or salvation.
The locus of control shifts entirely.
We enter youth. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the focus shifts to the companions we actually choose.
This is where the illusion of emotional independence becomes a high-stakes gamble. As we expand our boundaries in young adulthood, making friends becomes inevitable.
But the essay doesn't focus on having a massive social network, does it?
Not at all. It zeroes in entirely on the 2 or 3 close friends we choose to keep in our inner circle.
I found that specificity so fascinating, just 2 or 3 people. We usually talk about peer pressure as this trivial teenage issue, like wearing the right sneakers or listening to the right music.
Right, surface-level stuff.
But this framework positions those 2 or 3 young adult friendships as the ultimate fork in the road of your entire existence. It's like, just as you finally get your psychological driver's license, you immediately hand the steering wheel over to your best friends.
And this raises an important question about agency, because at 18 or 20, those friends don't really know how to drive either.
So true.
The mechanism of influence here is identity merging. In our youth, we effectively outsource our prefrontal cortex, our risk assessment, and long-term planning to our peers.
Wow. Outsourcing your brain.
Basically, yeah. The source tells us that if you choose sincere, optimistic, and driven friends, they infect you with a passion for life. Their ambition normalizes your ambition.
They literally pull you toward the light.
Yes, by making achievement and positivity the baseline expectation of the group. But the flip side of that contagion is terrifying.
It really is. If you align yourself with selfish, deceitful, or dark-minded friends, you don't just pick up a few bad habits.
No, it's a complete shift in reality.
The author explicitly warns that they will actively drag you into chaos, immorality, or even illegal paths. Like, if your 3 closest friends think cutting corners or cheating is totally acceptable, your own moral compass just demagnetizes.
It's a total derailment of your life trajectory based entirely on who is sitting in the passenger seat.
Exactly.
The vulnerability of youth is that you finally have the freedom to choose, but you lack the experience to foresee the compounding interest of those choices.
Yeah, you can't see 10 years down the line.
Right. The companions of your youth define your momentum. They dictate whether you navigate toward a life of expansion and enthusiasm or spiral down into disorder and cynicism.
So we ride that momentum, whether it's good or bad, straight into adulthood. And if friends set the trajectory of our youth, middle age brings us to the person we actually share the entire vehicle with.
The spouse.
Yes, our spouse. And I have to say, the tone of the discussion shifts so dramatically here.
It gets incredibly serious.
We stop talking about exciting life trajectories and start talking about daily, inescapable endurance. So what does this all mean for daily life?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the author aggressively strips away all the romanticized fairy tale views of marriage that society feeds us.
Yeah, there is no talk of soulmates or cinematic romance here.
None. Middle age is defined almost entirely by the husband or the wife, and it is presented as an uncompromising extreme binary,
It really is an extreme binary. On one hand, you have the ideal scenario, a reasonable, tender spouse who manages the household well.
which the text calls a great fortune.
Right, but the alternative,
No.
an unreasonable, selfish, greedy, complaining spouse, the language used here is incredibly bleak.
Very bleak.
It says this plunges your life into a, quote, bottomless abyss of misery. To understand the mechanics of this, I was actually trying to think of an analogy to capture that claustrophobia.
Yeah, like being trapped in a submarine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like being trapped in a deep-sea submarine. If there's a leak, a toxic, complaining spouse, there is literally nowhere to run. You just have to endure the crushing pressure in total silence.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it. Another way to look at it is like your spouse is the operating system of a computer.
Oh, I like that.
You can have amazing software, right? A great career, fulfilling hobbies, physical fitness. But if your operating system is corrupted,
If it's constantly crashing or running malicious code.
exactly, none of that software can function. The whole machine freezes.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how great your life looks on paper. If your spouse is toxic, your daily reality is a blue screen of death.
A daily blue screen of death. That sounds exhausting.
And the physiological reality of living with that corrupted operating system is what makes it an abyss.
Right.
The home is fundamentally designed to be the sanctuary where you recover from the baseline stress of the outside world.
But if the home becomes the primary source of hostility,
You never enter a state of recovery. Your allostatic load, which is the wear and tear on your body from chronic stress, it just builds and builds.
which perfectly explains the darkest assertion in this entire piece.
Yes.
The author notes that in this marital abyss, suicidal thoughts will frequently arise. And they emphasize that this hidden, silent sorrow applies equally to husbands and wives.
The real danger of this silent tragedy is the absolute lack of an outlet. The text points out that you simply have to endure it day by day, year by year, with nowhere to vent.
Because leaving isn't as simple as changing a friend group.
Exactly. Marriage is portrayed as the ultimate crucible. The social contract of marriage often involves shared finances, children, intertwined social circles.
It's totally enmeshed.
Right. So it'll either be your greatest daily comfort or your most dangerous, inescapable environment.
It makes perfect sense why the author views companions as the absolute creators of our emotional reality. If your spouse is your entire daily environment, their mood is literally the air you breathe.
You can't out-meditate a toxic living room.
You really can't. But this grueling endurance run of middle age does eventually conclude.
And it does.
As the timeline transitions into the final stage of life, the essay notes a profound contraction. The physical world begins to fade.
Physical strength declines, diseases start to creep in.
Right. And the sprawling outside world, the bustling career, the wide networks, it all narrows back down to the essentials. We basically come full circle.
We do. We started life entirely dependent on a set of caregivers, and we end life entirely dependent on a new set of caregivers.
The focus shifts to old age, and specifically the role of our children. They become what the author beautifully calls the final scenery of life's journey.
The return to an involuntary state of reliance is a very humbling reality.
Yeah, it is.
And once again, the text presents a stark dichotomy based entirely on who is walking next to you in those final miles.
Right, it's a binary again.
If your children are filial, meaning they are devoted, respectful, and caring, it is considered a massive fortune. It is the ultimate comfort as your own autonomy fades.
But the alternative, the description of having unfilial, neglectful children, is absolutely haunting.
It's devastating.
The author says the sorrow of that neglect seeps into your very bones and nerves. It's not just disappointment, it's this bone-deep bleakness.
The specific phrase used to describe this misery is calling to heaven and earth with no response.
Wow.
It captures the absolute terrifying isolation of dying alone, ignored or even mistreated by the very people you brought into the world and poured your life into.
Calling to heaven and earth with no response, that's like the psychological equivalent of floating in deep space.
It's the ultimate void, a chilling contrast to the warmth of having loving family by your side.
But right after describing that terrifying void, the essay pivots. It introduces a concept that acts as the ultimate antidote to all of this suffering.
Yes, the ultimate companion.
And this applies across any stage of life, whether you're a child, a young adult, or navigating old age.
This is really the philosophical peak of the essay. The text describes a highly specific kind of person, someone who gives you joy, freedom, and hope.
But crucially, they do so without asking for absolutely anything in return.
Exactly. They simply give. They dedicate themselves to easing your journey.
The text calls them an angel, a saint, or a bodhisattva.
And for those unfamiliar with the term, a bodhisattva in Buddhist tradition is essentially a being who has reached a state of spiritual perfection or enlightenment.
They could easily exit the cycle of suffering, right?
Right. But out of pure, boundless compassion, they choose to stick around in the messiness and pain of the human world, purely to help others suffer less.
Someone who stays in the mess just to help you carry the weight.
Yes.
The phrasing that absolutely stopped me in my tracks, though, was the cultural idiom the author used to describe the luck of actually finding a person like this.
Oh, the green smoke.
Yes, it says that meeting a selfless companion means, quote, your ancestors' graves are emitting green smoke.
It is an incredibly evocative, powerful image.
I mean, what a vivid phrase.
In this cultural context, ancestors' graves emitting green smoke signifies a miraculous, almost impossible level of cosmic luck.
Like hitting the cosmic jackpot.
Exactly. It implies that generations of good karma from your lineage are finally cashing out in your lifetime. It means you have hit the absolute spiritual jackpot.
I just try to imagine how rare and incredible that level of selflessness must be in human nature to warrant an idiom about glowing ancestral graves.
It's incredibly rare.
To find someone whose only agenda is your happiness, with zero strings attached.
And the author pushes it even further. If finding one person like this is a generational miracle, finding a group of such selfless people is described as heaven's greatest blessing.
Heaven's greatest blessing.
It is the highest form of grace a human being can experience. The author makes a very direct, urgent plea here. If you are lucky enough to encounter these bodhisattvas, these angels, you must cherish them for your entire lifetime.
Because they're the ultimate defense.
Yes, they're the only true defense against the dark clouds of early life or the bottomless abyss of a bad marriage.
Cherish them for a lifetime. You know, when you pull back and look at the entire map Sri Feng has drawn for us today, it is this sweeping, uninterrupted through line.
It really shatters the myth of the self-made emotional island.
Completely, from the involuntary starting blocks where our parents and teachers construct our nervous systems,
Through the chosen forks in the road where we hand the steering wheel to our friends.
into the inescapable operating system of our spouses, all the way to the final scenery provided by our children. Every ounce of our reality is constructed by those walking next to us.
The illusion of emotional independence is comforting, sure, but it's false. We are fundamentally porous creatures.
We absorb what's around us.
We are a product of our proximity to others. Our joys and our sorrows are inextricably linked to the companions on our journey.
Which brings me back to the challenge I threw out at the very beginning of this conversation. I want you to audit your inner circle.
Take a real honest look.
Look closely at your traveling companions today. Are the people you spend the most time with bringing sunlight into your sky, or are they dragging in dark clouds?
Are they pulling you toward passion and achievement, or are they a corrupted operating system crashing your daily life?
All right. Taking an honest inventory of these relationships is the only way to recognize the profound value of the good companions.
And to protect yourself from the physiological and psychological toll of the toxic ones.
But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over on your own. It's a complete flip of the essay's premise.
This is a great point.
Xu Feng spends this entire text exposing how others shape our joys and sorrows, how they create our sunny or cloudy days. But if that fundamental law of human connection is true,
Then it goes both ways.
it means you are the companion shaping someone else's destiny at this very moment.
That is the inescapable flip side of the coin. If you are influenced, you are also the environment. You are the architect of someone else's emotional house.
Exactly. So ask yourself, if someone else's joy and sorrow depends entirely on the people walking with them, what kind of scenery are you providing for the people walking next to you today?
Are you the hostile teacher blocking out the sun?
Are you the corrupted operating system making someone's home an abyss?
Or,
Are you the reason someone feels like their ancestors' graves are emitting green smoke?
that's the real question.
Take a look around at the people in your life again. You aren't just a passenger on their journey. You might just be the creator of their entire world.